It all started with one Instagram live that nobody expected. Yandy Smith-Harris, the woman who built her entire image around loyalty, love and endurance, suddenly appeared on screen with tears in her eyes and a tone that screamed she was done. Fans flooded the comments instantly. What's happening? Where's Mendeecees? Is this real? But Yandy didn't flinch. She looked straight into the camera and said words that made the entire love and hip-hop universe freeze. Sometimes loving someone isn't enough anymore. Within minutes, blogs exploded. From Hollywood Unlocked to the Shade Room, everyone was reposting the clip. Yandy demands divorce became the headline of the hour. What happened to hip-hop's ultimate power couple, the same duo who stood by each other through prison sentences, reality TV chaos, and endless rumors? How did a love that once seemed bulletproof start crumbling in front of millions of fans? Rumors say the fallout began weeks ago, when Mendeecees was spotted in Atlanta without Yandy, and definitely not alone. Eyewitnesses claimed they saw him having dinner with a mystery woman, wearing a silver bracelet that looked suspiciously like the one Yandy wore on Love and Hip Hop, New York Season 10. That one detail was enough to set social media ablaze. Fans started connecting dots, resurfacing old clips of arguments, subtle shade in interviews, and that one cryptic post Yandy shared last month. Peace is better than pretending. Sources close to the couple say the tension had been building for months. Behind the smiles and curated family photos, there were endless fights about priorities, boundaries, and trust. Mendeecees allegedly felt Yandy was more focused on her image than her marriage, while Yandy accused him of being emotionally distant. One insider even said, "They've been sleeping in separate rooms for weeks. She's tired of fighting. This time, it feels final." But the real breaking point, it wasn't just betrayal, it was exposure. Producers at VH1 reportedly caught wind of the tension and wanted to make it the centerpiece of a new Love and Hip Hop special. When Yandy found out, she allegedly snapped, "You will not use my pain for ratings," she reportedly yelled during a private production meeting. And when Mendeecees didn't back her up, that was the moment she knew it was over. In a quiet corner of their New Jersey home, surrounded by half-packed boxes and silence thicker than any argument, Yandy told a close friend, "I've carried this relationship long enough. I can't save what doesn't want to be saved." That friend leaked the quote, and suddenly, every fan, blogger, and co-star had an opinion. Was this really the end of one of reality TV's most iconic couples? Or was this another media storm designed to shake up the franchise? Either way, something inside Yandy had changed, and for the first time, it looked like she was ready to walk away, not as a wife, but as a woman reclaiming her peace. And yet, just when everyone thought it couldn't get more chaotic, one shocking detail emerged. A private recording, allegedly taken from Mendeecees' phone, was about to leak, and it would flip this entire story upside down. The night before everything went public, Yandy sat alone in the living room, staring at the flickering light of her phone. The house was quiet, too quiet. Even the hum of the refrigerator felt louder than her heartbeat. She scrolled through her messages. Mendeecees hadn't replied since morning. 12 hours. No text. No call, no check-in, just silence. It wasn't unusual lately, but something about this night felt different. She felt that sinking feeling deep inside, the kind that tells you something is about to change forever. She thought about the last conversation they had 2 days ago. It started small, and other argument about his travel schedule. Yandy wanted him home more, wanted him present, not just physically, but emotionally. But Mendeecees brushed it off, saying she was overreacting again. That word, overreacting, it had become his favorite weapon. Every time she tried to explain how she felt, he'd throw it like a dart, piercing whatever confidence she had left. This time though, she didn't cry. She just went quiet. And that silence scared him more than any shouting ever did. What she didn't know then was that he had already taken a flight to Atlanta. Not for business, not for music, but for something else, someone else. A woman named Tanisha, a promoter he'd been working with for weeks. Rumors about her had started small, whispers on set, murmurs on social media. But when that photo leaked, a blurred image of two figures holding hands in a dimly lit restaurant, it became impossible to ignore. And though his face wasn't fully visible, fans knew. They always know. The next morning, Yandy woke up to chaos online. Her mentions were filled with tags and screenshots. "Girl, he's cheating again. Wake up, this man doesn't deserve you." She scrolled through it all, eyes burning, hands trembling, until she reached one post that made her stop. It was Tanisha herself, posting a cryptic story that said, "Loyalty is just a word when love runs cold." That's when Yandy knew it wasn't a rumor anymore. Later that afternoon, she confronted him on face. Her voice cracked but her words were sharp. I'm tired of defending you to people who were right about you. Mendeecees sighed, looking annoyed instead of guilty. You always think the worst, he said, shaking his head. You don't even have proof. She stared at him, silent for a long moment, then whispered, proof. I have eyes, Mendeecees, and I have a heart that's been breaking for months. He tried to talk over her, but she ended the call mid-set. A few hours later, she called her friend Juju, the same Juju who had been through her own heartbreak with Cameron. You can't keep saving this man, Juju told her softly. You built a brand, a family, a legacy. Don't let him destroy it. Yandy sat there listening, tears falling quietly. I know, she said, but it's hard to walk away from the story you told yourself was forever. Meanwhile, in Atlanta, Mendeecees was losing control of the narrative. Once the story hit the blogs, VH1 producers started calling. They smelled ratings gold. The network had always loved the drama between them, the loyal wife, the reformed husband, but this was bigger. One producer messaged him, saying, if you two are done, we need to film this. Fans deserve to know. Mendeecees felt trapped. The same cameras that once gave him fame were now ready to expose his downfall. His mother, Judy, called him later that night. Son, you better fix this before it's too late, she warned. That girl held you down while you were inside. Don't you dare make her look stupid now. But instead of listening, Mendeecees got defensive. Ma, people always believe Yandy's side. I'm tired of being painted like the bad guy. Judy sighed, knowing this wasn't just about gossip, it was about pride. As the tension grew, old wounds began to resurface. Yandy started remembering things she had tried to forget: the letters, the late-night arguments, the times she defended him when nobody else would. She realized she had built her identity around being his rock, and now that rock was crumbling. That evening, she decided to record a video message. Not for Instagram, not for fans, but for herself. She sat in front of her vanity, hit record, and said softly, I don't know if this will ever see the light of day, but if it does, I want people to know I tried. I loved him the way you love someone who feels like home, but sometimes, home becomes a place you can't live in anymore. She ended the recording and saved it. Across town, Mendeecees was sitting in a studio pretending to focus on business. His phone buzzed non-stop, but he ignored it until he saw one message from his son. Mom's crying again. What's going on? He froze, guilt washing over him. For the first time in weeks, he realized how far things had gone. But before he could reach out, it was too late. Yandy had already made her move. Her team had contacted a lawyer. Not for gossip, not for leverage, but for paperwork. I want it clean, she told them. No drama, no fights, just peace. The news leaked the next morning. TMZ ran the headline first, then Baller Alert, then every blog from New York to Los Angeles. Yandy Smith files for separation from Mendeecees Harris. Within hours, her name was trending on Twitter. Fans flooded her page with love and heartbreak emojis. Some cheered her strength, others begged her to reconsider, but she stayed silent. That night, when the kids were asleep, she sat by the window, phone buzzing every few seconds. Juju texted her again. You did the right thing. But one message stood out among the rest. It was from an unknown number that read, you think you know everything, but you don't know what's coming. She stared at it for a long time, her stomach twisting. It wasn't signed, but she had a feeling she knew who sent it. What she didn't realize was that Mendeecees wasn't going down quietly. He had something began. He was ready to use it. A secret that could change how everyone saw their marriage forever. And that secret was about to come out in the most explosive way possible. 2 nights after the separation news broke, the atmosphere in New York's entertainment circles shifted. Every producer, co-star, and friend connected to love and hip-hop was whispering. Something about a recording. Something about betrayal that went way deeper than cheating. And while Yandy was still trying to process the emotional storm she'd unleashed, Mendeecees was plotting his next move. He was angry not just at her, but at how fast the world turned against him. He felt humiliated, cornered, like the internet had made up its mind before he could even speak. So he called his manager. Tone sharp. Get me a sit down. I want to clear my name, he said. The manager hesitated, knowing this could easily backfire. Bro, you sure about that? Once you open that box, there's no closing it. Mendeecees didn't care. No, I've been quiet too long. Let them hear my side. While that conversation was happening, Yandy was sitting in her kitchen, phone buzzing nonstop with messages of support. Her closest friends Huhu, Kim Bea, Abe and Erica Mena, had called to check on her, but one call caught her off guard. It was from Mona Scott Young herself, the executive producer of Love and Hip Hop. Baby girl, Mona said, voice calm but calculating. I just need to know, are we done filming y'all together? Or is there still a story to tell? Yandy paused. She could hear what Mona wasn't saying. This wasn't just concern, it was production strategy. Mona, she replied slowly, if there's a story left to tell, it won't be the one you think. Meanwhile, social media was on fire. A supposed anonymous source had leaked a teaser of an audio file. The clip was less than 15 seconds, but it was enough to send shockwaves across the internet. It was Mendeecees' voice saying, "You know what we did. Don't make me say it." Fans went wild. What did they do? Was it about money? Another woman? A lie that kept their marriage afloat? As comments flooded in, Yandy's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Juju called again. "Girl, what's that audio?" Yandy sighed, exhausted. "I don't even know. He's trying to play games. He wants attention." But deep down, her heart raced. She did know there was something she had buried years ago, something they promised would never come out. Flashback to 2017. Yandy and Mendeecees were still rebuilding after his release from prison. They were trying to get their businesses back up, rebrand their image, and prove they were stronger than ever. But money was tight, deals were drying up, and appearances weren't paying what they used to. One night, they had a heated argument about finances. Mendeecees had invested money in a side business without telling her, and when it failed, the loss was devastating. Yandy had covered it quietly, even used her brand deals to clean it up, making it look like nothing happened. She protected him publicly while resenting him privately. And now, it seemed that old secret was about to be used against her. The next morning, the full audio leaked online. It was part of a private conversation from years ago, recorded without her knowledge. In it, Yandy could be heard saying, "We'll just tell them the numbers are different. Nobody needs to know about the missing money." The internet erupted. Fans started accusing her of fraud, manipulation, even tax issues. Yandy's image as the strong, loyal, transparent woman suddenly looked shaky. And Mendeecees, he stayed silent, letting the noise grow louder. The backlash was immediate. Sponsors pulled back, podcasts dissected every word, and her comment section turned into a battlefield. So she's been lying this whole time. That's why she's leaving him. They both fake. Every headline twisted the narrative a little more, until even people close to her started doubting. But Yandy wasn't going down without a fight. That same night, she posted a short video on her Instagram story. No makeup, no filter, just raw emotion. "You can edit a clip, but you can't edit the truth," she said softly. "I see what's happening, and I won't let anyone rewrite my story." Her followers exploded with support. Hashtags like #StandWithYandy and #ProtectYandy started trending. While her fans rallied, Mendeecees was meeting with his team in Atlanta. His best friend Lil Mendy warned him, "Bro, this is messy. She gonna flip it back on you?" But Mendeecees was convinced he could win the public back. "People forgot I was the one holding it down too. I sacrificed everything," he snapped. He planned to go live the next night, tell his side, and reveal the real reason she wanted a divorce. The following evening, as thousands tuned in, he appeared on screen wearing a black hoodie, eyes tired but defiant. "Everybody think they know Yandy," he began. "They don't. She been lying to y'all, lying to me, lying to herself. I ain't perfect, but I ain't fake." The comments poured in, half defending him, half attacking him. He paused, then dropped the bombshell. "Y'all ever wonder why we never filed the marriage papers until years later? Because she wanted protection. Protection from me, from my name, from my past." That line hit hard. It was the same revelation that had once come out on Love and Hip Hop years ago. But the way he said it, now cold calculated, made it feel brand new. Within minutes, clips of his live flooded Twitter, and fans started taking sides again. Across the city, Yandy watched in silence. She could feel her phone buzzing on the table, but she didn't move. Her assistant came in quietly. "Should I turn it off?" she asked. Yandy shook her head. "No," she whispered. "Let them talk. I'll speak when it matters." But deep inside, something snapped. She wasn't just hurt, she was furious. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. And if Mendeecees wanted war, she was ready to fight. The next morning, she called her lawyer. "We're not doing this quietly anymore," she said firmly. "He wants to play dirty. Let's play dirty." The lawyer hesitated. "What do you mean?" Yandy's voice didn't shake. "There are things I never said. Things he never wanted public. If he wants exposure, I'll give it to him." That day, as she packed up her office, her phone buzzed again, this time, a message from Mona Scott. "We need to talk. VH1 wants an exclusive sit-down. Both of you, together." Yandy stared at the message, her reflection in the black screen of her phone. She didn't reply right away, but one thing was clear: if that sit-down happened, it wouldn't just be a reunion. It would be a reckoning. And somewhere deep down, Yandy knew this was no longer about saving a marriage. It was about revealing a truth so explosive that it could shake the entire love and hip-hop empire to its core. The offer from Mona Scott sat in Yandy's inbox like a ticking time bomb. She hadn't responded yet, but the entire love and hip-hop production team was already preparing as if she'd said yes. Cameras were being set, makeup artists on standby, and producers were fighting over how to frame the reunion of destruction, as one of them called it in an email. But for Yandy, this wasn't about production, it was about reclaiming control. She spent that morning in silence, pacing back and forth, replaying every argument, every betrayal, every smile that now felt like a lie. She knew going on camera again meant reopening wounds that hadn't even started to heal, but she also knew that staying silent meant letting Mendeecees own the story, and that was something she refused to let happen. By noon, she called Mona. "I'll do it," she said flatly, "but on my terms. No fake setups, no extra drama. I'll speak, he can speak, and that's it." Mona's voice brightened instantly. "Of course, baby, of course, we'll keep it classy." But Yandy knew better. There was never anything classy about reality TV, only calculated. On the other side, Mendeecees was preparing to, except his motives were different. He saw the special as a chance to clean up his image, to look like the calm, rational husband dealing with a dramatic wife. His team advised him to stay cool, show emotion but not anger. "Remember," his manager said, "people forgive men faster when they act broken, not bitter." He nodded, rehearsing lines in his head, not realizing that Yandy had real evidence that could destroy him. The day of the taping arrived like a storm. The studio was packed, lights, producers, assistants running around, mic checks echoing through the air. Fans outside screamed as word got out that Yandy and Mendeecees were both in the building. Inside, Yandy sat in her dressing room, staring at herself in the mirror. She wore a simple black dress, no flashy jewelry, just confidence. Juju stood beside her, whispering, "You ready?" Yandy took a deep breath. "Ready or not, it's happening." Mendeecees walked in 15 minutes late, as if to prove a point. He glanced at her through the mirror, gave a forced smile, and said, "You look good." She didn't respond. The tension between them was so thick the crew could feel it. Mona peeked into the room once, saw the frost in the air, and quietly backed out. As the cameras rolled, Mona's voice carried from offstage, "Rolling in 3, 2, and just like that, the show began. The set was simple: 2 chairs facing each other, a glass table between them, but the energy was electric. Yandy sat upright, calm but cold. Mendeecees leaned back, arms crossed. For a long second, neither spoke. Then Mona's voice prompted from behind the camera, "Yandy, do you want to start?" She looked straight into the lens and said softly, "For years, I protected this man from everything: the public, the law, even himself. I thought love meant loyalty no matter what. But what happens when loyalty becomes your own cage?" Mendeecees chuckled under his breath. "Here we go with the speeches." Yandy turned to him, eyes blazing. "No, here we go with the truth. You want to talk about lying, about manipulation. Let's talk about what really happened in Atlanta." The studio went silent. Even Mona leaned forward in her chair behind the monitors. Mendeecees' smirk faded. "Don't start that, Yandy. You know how rumors get." "Rumors," she snapped. "You were caught on camera, Mendeecees' camera. Dinner with a woman you said was your business partner. A woman you took to the same restaurant we had our first anniversary in." He shifted in his seat, eyes narrowing. "You don't know the whole story." "Then tell it," she said, leaning closer. "Tell everyone watching why you lied to me, to our kids, to every fan who believed in us." For a moment, it looked like he might actually explain, but instead, he turned the tables. "You talking about lies. Yandy, let's not forget you were never honest about that. Contract deal in 2019. You took money that was supposed to go into our foundation and used it for your store launch. Don't play innocent." Gasps erupted from the crew. Even Yandy's jaw dropped. "You're disgusting," she whispered. "You're really bringing that up when you know why I did it. Because you were gone. Again, and I was holding everything together." "Nah," he said coldly. "You were building your brand while my family starved." The exchange spiraled fast, words cutting sharper than knives. Mona tried to intervene once, but the tension was too real to stop. Fans watching the leaked stream online started commenting. in real-time hashtags, like hashtag Yandy's Mendeecees and hashtag Love and Hip Hop were trending within minutes. After nearly 40 minutes of chaos, Yandy suddenly went quiet. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and held it up. "Since we're exposing things," she said evenly, "let's show them what you said to me last month." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Mona motioned to cut, but Yandy didn't stop. She hit play. From her phone came Mendeecees' voice, raw and emotional. "I messed up. I don't know why I keep doing this. I just don't feel like you need me anymore." The room froze. The tone was soft, broken. It wasn't a confession, it was a plea. Mendeecees' face dropped. "You recorded me," he muttered. "No," she said. "You sent it. Remember? After the Atlanta trip." For the first time, the man who had spent weeks trying to paint himself as the victim had no words. He stared at her, then looked away, jaw clenched. Yandy put her phone down and spoke directly to the camera. "This isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. I gave everything I had to this marriage, and all I asked was honesty. And now that I finally have peace, I'm being dragged for walking away from pain." Mendeecees looked at her, eyes filled with something between anger and regret. "You wanted peace. Then why are you here?" "Because peace," she said quietly, "doesn't mean silence." Mona called cut. The set went dead quiet, only the hum of equipment filling the room. The moment the cameras stopped, Yandy stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked off stage without another word. Mendeecees stayed seated, staring at the floor, jaw tight, lost in thought. An hour later, the footage leaked. Nobody knew who did it, maybe a crew member, maybe a producer, but by nightfall, every major gossip page had clips from the confrontation. Fans were losing their minds. Some called Yandy a queen for standing her ground. Others accused her of humiliation tactics. But one thing everyone agreed on: the love story of Yandy and Mendeecees was officially over. Still, behind the internet chaos, something else was brewing. Because while Yandy thought she had said her final piece, there was one more secret one that neither of them had ever spoken of publicly, and the person holding that secret was about to go live. With receipts. The person holding the secret was none other than Samantha Wallace, Mendeecees' ex, and the mother of his oldest son. She had stayed quiet through most of the drama, watching from a distance as the internet tore both Yandy and Mendeecees apart, but that silence didn't come from peace. It came from preparation. Samantha had been waiting for the right moment, and when she saw the leaked footage of their explosive reunion special, she knew that moment had arrived. The next morning, she went live on Instagram. The notifications spread like wildfire. Thousands joined within minutes. Samantha sat on her couch, calm, collected, hair pulled back, a folder in her lap. "I've stayed quiet for years," she began. "But since everyone wanted to talk about truth and accountability, let's talk about what really went down between Yandy and Mendeecees." The comments section exploded. "Not Samantha too. This just got wild. Sis got the receipts." She opened the folder and pulled out printed emails. "I have proof that half of what y'all saw on Love and Hip Hop wasn't real. Those family reunions, staged. Those tears, rehearsed. And that whole marriage certificate storyline. Trust MIT was all about the image." She leaned closer to the camera. "But the part they never showed was how they both used each other when the cameras stopped rolling." She went on to reveal that during the years Mendeecees was in prison, Yandy had allegedly promised to support Samantha's son financially, to keep peace in the family while protecting her own public image. But according to Samantha, the payments stopped after Yandy's brand started growing. Once she started getting deals and partnerships, it became all about her. Samantha said she didn't want anything to remind people that Mendeecees had a whole life before her. The clip went viral in minutes. Fans were stunned, torn between disbelief and outrage. Was Yandy really as real as she claimed, or was Samantha just stirring old drama for attention? Even Mona Scott was forced to release a statement saying, "The Love and Hip Hop franchise does not comment on private matters between cast members," but that only fueled more curiosity. While the internet dissected Samantha's every word, Yandy sat in her penthouse, scrolling through the chaos in disbelief. Juju was there again, pacing the floor. "Girl, you need to say something," she urged. "You can't let her twist it like this." But Yandy was exhausted. "If I respond to every lie, I'll never have time to live," she muttered. Then, after a long pause, she added, "But if she wants to play, we can play." She walked over to her desk, opened her laptop, and began typing. An hour later, she posted a statement on her Instagram page. No video, no tears, just words. The truth doesn't need a platform, it survives time. Anyone using old pain for new attention should remember that receipts go both ways. Within minutes, fans flooded the comments, begging her to drop her side of the story, but she didn't. Not yet. Across town, Mendeecees was livid. Samantha's revelations had embarrassed him too. He stormed into his manager's office, slamming his phone on the table. "Why is she talking about me like that?" he shouted. "This ain't her business anymore." His manager tried to calm him down. "You opened this door, bro. Once you started airing dirty laundry, everyone's gonna add their spin." But the damage was done. Sponsors were pulling out, podcast hosts were mocking him, and his image as the family man of love and hip-hop was crumbling. Then came the biggest blow of all. A gossip page called T Unlocked posted screenshots of text messages allegedly between Mendeecees and Samantha from a few months earlier. In the texts, he had begged her to keep certain documents, that he said could mess up everything if they ever surfaced. The internet went insane trying to guess what those documents were. Financial, personal, something about Yandy. Nobody knew for sure. Later that evening, Yandy received a call from a private number. She hesitated before answering. A woman's voice came through, calm but mysterious. "I have something you need to see," the voice said. "It's about Mendeecees. Meet me at the old studio on 10th Avenue. Alone." Against her better judgment, she went. When she arrived, the studio was dimly lit. The woman stepped out of the shadows. It was Samantha. Yandy froze, tension instantly filling the room. "Why am I here?" Yandy demanded. "Because," Samantha said, handing her a small envelope, "you should know what he's really been doing behind your back. This isn't about us anymore, it's about truth." Yandy hesitated, then opened the envelope. Inside were printouts, emails, bank transfers, and photos. Her eyes widened. It showed Mendeecees funneling money through one of their joint business accounts into a side company registered under someone else's name. "He's been hiding income," Samantha said quietly. "He's using your brand to wash it. I didn't want to get dragged into it, but now that he's trying to paint me as bitter, I'm not staying silent." Yandy felt her world tilt. She clutched the papers, hands trembling. "Are these real?" she whispered. "Real enough to ruin him," Samantha said. "And maybe you too, if you don't move carefully." That night, Yandy sat in her car for nearly an hour, staring at the envelope in her lap. She thought about her kids, her business, her reputation. The pain of betrayal hit her all over again, but this time, it wasn't just emotional, it was survival. She realized that the man she once fought for, defended on camera, cried for on national television was the same man who was now dragging her down silently from behind the scenes. When she got home, she poured herself a glass of wine, opened her phone, and started recording again. Her voice was steady, her eyes cold. "You can only play the victim for so long before people see the pattern," she said into the camera. "This time, I'm not cleaning up anyone's mess. This time, I'm telling it all." As she stopped recording, her phone buzzed again. A text from Mendeecees. "You think you can destroy me? Remember who made you famous." She stared at the screen, then slowly smiled. "Oh, baby," she whispered to herself. "You just gave me my next headline." And with that, Yandy picked up her phone, called Mona Scott, and said the words that would change everything. "I'm ready for the tell-all." The announcement hit social media like lightning. Yandy Smith set to film explosive tell-all special, no topic off limits. Within hours, every gossip outlet from the Shade Room to TMZ had the headline plastered across their feeds. Fans flooded the comments, speculating about what she would reveal. Is she finally exposing Mendeecees? She got the receipts ready. VH1 better air this live. Inside the network offices, Mona Scott was already mobilizing her top team. This wasn't just another interview, it was about to be the biggest event the franchise had seen in years. Mona called Yandy directly that morning. "Girl, you sure about this?" she asked carefully. "Once this goes out, there's no going back." Yandy's voice was calm but sharp. "I've been quiet long enough. They want truth. I'll give them truth." 2 days later, the studio lights flickered back on. The set was darker this time, more serious muted tones, a single spotlight, and no audience. Mona sat off camera, producing every frame herself. This wasn't reality TV. This was confession turned spectacle. The cameras rolled, and Yandy appeared on screen in a fitted white suit, her face glowing but her eyes hard. She took a slow breath before speaking. "For years, people saw me as the woman who stood by her man. I was loyal, patient, forgiving. But nobody asked what it cost me. Nobody asked what I lost while saving everyone else. She paused, hands clasped tightly together. You all think you know my story because you watched it edited, cut, and fed through a narrative. But behind every scene, there was a truth I couldn't tell until now. She began recounting everything, the arguments that happened after the cameras stopped. The manipulations, the half-truths told for storyline value. She spoke about being told to cry on cue, to act more forgiving even when she was broken inside. People loved our love, she said, her voice shaking, but they never realized how much of that love was performance. I wanted peace, but peace doesn't trend. Chaos does. Then she dropped the first bombshell. She reached into her bag and pulled out the same folder Samantha had given her. These are financial records tied to our joint ventures, she explained. Money was being moved without my consent. Accounts I didn't even know existed. Every time I asked about it, I got told I was overreacting. The crew shifted uneasily. Mona's eyes widened off screen. This wasn't gossip anymore, it was legal territory. This isn't about hate, Yandy continued. This is about freedom. I built my name on loyalty. But loyalty to the wrong person becomes self-destruction, and I refuse to destroy myself to protect a lie. Social media exploded again. Fans were live-tweeting every word. Clips from the recording leaked within hours, creating a storm of hashtags. Hashtag Yandy speaks. Hashtag Mendeecees exposed. Hashtag truth over image. While the world watched her take back her power, Mendeecees was losing his grip. He was at his Atlanta condo, scrolling through his phone in disbelief as his name trended worldwide. He called his lawyer immediately. Can she even say that on TV? He snapped. The lawyer sighed. She didn't mention anything defamatory by name. If she's got proof, it's her story to tell. His anger boiled over. He grabbed his phone and recorded a response video. You all watching that fake narrative she's spinning. Let me make something clear, I built with her. I sacrificed for her. Now she wanna play the victim for views. Nah. I got my own receipts. He uploaded it within minutes. Millions viewed it before the hour was over. The back and forth became digital warfare. Every blog, every commentator, every fan was picking sides. But behind all the chaos, a quiet war was unfolding, a war, not just of reputation, but of survival. The next morning, Yandy received a call from her lawyer. You might want to sit down, he said. We just got word Mendeecees filed an emergency injunction. He's trying to block the full tell-all from airing. She exhaled slowly, staring out the window. He can try, she said, but the truth's already out. That same afternoon, Mona called her in. Listen, Mona began, voice low. VH1's getting pressure from sponsors. This thing's bigger than we thought. If we air the full version, it could blow up the whole brand. Yandy's tone was icy. So you want me to be silent again? No, Mona replied. I want you to be strategic. If you've got more proof, we'll edit it right, make it hit harder, but protect you legally. Yandy agreed reluctantly. She knew Mona's motives weren't just protection, they were profit. But she didn't care. The world was finally listening. Later that night, she sat in her bedroom, surrounded by printed messages and screenshots, each one a reminder of how deep the deception had gone. A knock on the door startled her. It was her assistant. You've got mail, she said, handing her a small brown envelope. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note that read, You're not the only one with recordings. She stared at it, her pulse quickening. Her mind raced. Who sent it? Samantha? Mendeecees? Someone from VH1. She plugged it into her laptop, hesitating before hitting play. The video began with grainy footage from what looked like a backstage area. Mendeecees talking to one of the producers, unaware he was being filmed. You think I care if she leaves? He was saying. Let her play her little strong woman act. I'll drop the real story if she pushes it too far. I got proof she's been hiding things too. You'll see. Yandy slammed her laptop shut, heart pounding. She couldn't believe what she'd just heard. This wasn't about a failed marriage anymore. This was character assassination. Planned, rehearsed, weaponized. She knew she had two options. Stay quiet and let the narrative twist again, or go all in and burn every bridge. And for the first time, she didn't hesitate. She called Mona that instant. Air everything, she said firmly. No edits. No cuts. No censorship. If he wants war, he's got it. Mona was silent for a few seconds before replying. You sure about this? I've never been more sure, Yandy said. I was his wife. Now I'll be his reckoning. And with that, the tell-all went from being a confession to a public execution of an empire that once symbolized black love on television. As the countdown to the special began, millions waited. Fans, haters, co-stars, Even other Love and Hip Hop alumni were watching, knowing this wasn't just another TV moment. This was history in the making. The night love turned into vengeance, and every secret was about to see the light. 3 days later, the premiere aired. From the opening second, the tone was unlike anything VH1 had ever broadcast. The screen faded from black to a slow montage of Yandy and Mendeecees in happier times, smiling, holding hands, walking red carpets together. But then, the music shifted. The laughter faded, the footage slowed down, replaced by flashes of headlines, court filings, and screenshots. Then Yandy's voice cut through. Love doesn't die in one day. It dies in silence, in secrets, in lies you pretend not to see. Fans watching at home were glued to their screens. The episode trended before it even finished, and when the camera cut to Yandy sitting alone, facing the interviewer, the world seemed to hold its breath. She didn't cry this time. She didn't raise her voice. She just told the story as it was. When I met Mendeecees, he was charming, smart, ambitious, but I also saw pain in him. I thought if I loved him enough, that pain would heal. I didn't realize I was feeding it. She went on to talk about how fame made everything worse, how public image turned private pain into currency. Every time we had a fight, producers would ask if we could redo it on camera. Every time I forgave him, it became a storyline. After a while, I didn't know where the show ended and where my real life began. Then came the moment that changed everything. Yandy looked straight into the camera and said, "He didn't just betray me emotionally. He betrayed the foundation we built. I found out he used my name to secure deals I never signed. I took care of our family, paid debts, fought battles, and he was out building a second life behind my back." The interviewer hesitated. A second life? Yandy nodded slowly. There's another woman, one he's been seeing for over a year, and she's pregnant. The room went still. Even the camera operator gasped quietly, but Yandy didn't flinch. He thought I didn't know, she continued softly, but I found the messages, the bank transfers, the photos, and the saddest part, I wasn't even angry when I found out. I was numb, because by then, he wasn't my husband anymore, he was a stranger I was sharing space with. Social media detonated. Thousands of tweets per second. Every major outlet broke the story instantly. Mendeecees' cheating scandal explodes during Yandy tell-all. Yandy confirms second woman expecting child. VH1 special breaks network viewership record. Mendeecees, watching from Atlanta, threw his phone across the room. "She lying," he shouted, pacing furiously. His manager tried to calm him. "Bro, stop. Don't go live. You'll make it worse." But it was too late. He grabbed another phone, hit record, and went live anyway. His face appeared on millions of screens. "First off, that's not true," he said, voice trembling with anger. "I ain't got no other woman pregnant. She making this up because she mad I left first." But as the comments poured in, one stood out from a verified account. It read, "Stop lying, Em. You know the truth. I stayed quiet long enough." Fans clicked the profile. It was a woman named Keisha B., a former event planner who had once worked with Yandy on a project in Atlanta. Seconds later, Keisha went live on her own page, and what she said confirmed everything. "Yeah, I'm the one she's talking about," Keisha said calmly, holding her baby bump on camera. "I didn't plan this. I didn't even know he was still with her like that. He told me they were done. And when I found out the truth, it was too late. I reached out to Yandy once, but she never responded. So now, I'm done hiding too." The internet erupted into pure chaos. Within an hour, every gossip page reposted the clip. Yandy's name trended again, this time alongside Keisha's. "This is insane. Yandy deserves better. Mendeecees done. VH1 can't even write this drama." In the middle of the storm, Yandy stayed silent. Her lawyer had advised her to keep calm, not to respond publicly while the legal team prepared the final divorce filing. But the silence only made fans wilder. They began piecing timelines together, tracking old posts, matching locations, even finding that one photo Mendeecees had posted months ago, with a blurry reflection in the background that now clearly showed Keisha. Meanwhile, Mona Scott couldn't believe her luck. The tell-all had broken ratings records overnight, but she also knew things were spiraling. She called Yandy immediately. "Listen, we need a follow-up episode. People are demanding answers." Yandy hesitated. "I said what I needed to say." "I know, baby, but this thing's bigger than both of you now," Mona pressed. "You have the whole world's attention. Use it." Yandy thought for a moment, then said quietly, "I'll do one more. But this time, I want to control the footage." Across the city, Mendeecees was in damage control mode. He called Keisha privately, furious. "You think this gonna make your life easier?" he snapped. You just messed everything up. No, you did that, she said flatly. You lied to both of us. I'm not protecting you anymore. She hung up before he could respond. He sat there in silence, realizing that for the first time in years, he had lost control not just of the narrative, but of everyone around him. A few days later, VH1 Presents. The Aftermath aired. This time, it was different. There was no studio audience, no dramatic music, no glitz, just Yandy sitting across from a female journalist, composed and reflective. The interviewer asked softly, "What do you want people to take away from this?" Yandy smiled faintly. That love is not supposed to hurt this much. That no matter how strong you are, if you keep fixing broken people, you'll forget how to love yourself. I stayed because I believed in potential, but potential doesn't keep promises. Reality does. The journalist nodded. And what's next for you? Healing, Yandy said simply. Not revenge, not drama, just healing. For me and my kids. I'm done performing pain for the world. The camera lingered on her face as she took a deep breath, eyes glistening not with tears, but with freedom. As the credits rolled, Mendeecees posted one last message to his Instagram story. She won the internet. I'll survive the truth. But what neither of them knew was that someone else had just sold unseen footage to a streaming network, footage that showed everything that happened off camera before the tell-all even began. And when that footage dropped, it would change the way the world viewed their entire relationship. Forever. The leaked footage surfaced 2 weeks later, late at night, when fans thought the storm had finally settled. It appeared first on a small gossip account with only a few thousand followers, titled simply What VH1 Didn't Show. Within an hour, it was everywhere, shared, reposted, mirrored, dissected. Millions clicked the play button, and what they saw was not another staged reunion or emotional confessional. It was raw, unfiltered, and devastating. The video opened with Yandy and Mendeecees backstage before the tell-all. Minutes before cameras started rolling, the lighting was harsh, the sound slightly distorted, but the voices were unmistakable. Yandy stood with her arms crossed, makeup half done, staring at him coldly. You don't have to pretend to care now, she said quietly. You already played your part. Mendeecees exhaled, frustration heavy in his voice. You think this makes you a hero? Airing all our business out. You think people won't turn on you next? Yandy turned her head slightly, eyes sharp. Let them. At least I'll be free. You've been hiding for years, but truth has a way of catching up. Mendeecees? He laughed bitterly. Truth? Or your version of it? You forgot the times you begged me to stay for the cameras. The times you said we had to look perfect because you were negotiating deals. She stepped closer. I said that to survive. To protect what we built. He snapped. Nah, you said it, to protect you. There was a long silence, just the faint hum of studio lights and muffled voices in the distance. Then Yandy whispered, barely audible. Maybe I did. Maybe I got lost in all of it, but I still showed up. You didn't. Then came the part that made the internet lose its mind. Another voice entered the frame, Mona Scott's. She walked into the room. Headset still on, unaware the camera was rolling. Guys, we're live in 5. Please, at least look at each other for the promo shot. Fake it for 30 seconds if you have to. Yandy shook her head. I'm done faking. Mona's tone hardened. You know how many people depend on this show. How many checks go out because of your story? You walk now. The whole thing collapses. Yandy looked straight into the lens. Then let it collapse. The video cut off there, but the damage was nuclear. Fans were outraged, not just at Mendeecees, but at VH1, at Mona, at the entire system that had turned pain into profit. Hashtags flooded social media. Hashtag let it collapse. Hashtag justice for Yandy Y. Hashtag love and hip-hop exposed. Mona Scott went into full crisis mode. Her team issued a statement within hours claiming the footage was stolen and illegally distributed. But it was too late. The clip had already hit 10 million views and counting. The illusion was shattered. Yandy, meanwhile, didn't post anything for 2 days. She stayed off social media completely, ignoring calls from journalists, ignoring emails from producers. She spent her time with her kids, cooking, laughing, trying to remember what peace felt like. But on the third night, she broke her silence. She went live, just her. No glam, no script, no production lights. You all saw it, she said softly. That wasn't acting. That was real. That was me trying to hold together a world that kept breaking apart. I don't blame the network. I don't even blame him. I blame the idea that a woman's pain is entertainment. She paused, wiping a tear that she didn't try to hide. This isn't just my story. It's every woman who's ever been told to smile while she's breaking. I'm done being the story. I'm writing a new one. The live went viral instantly. Celebrities, influencers, Even fellow love and hip-hop stars reposted it with messages of support. Cardi B commented, "Stand on it, sis." K. Michelle wrote, "We've been new, but now the world sees it too." As her followers multiplied overnight, Yandy got a call from a major streaming platform, Net. They wanted to turn her story into a documentary, not about scandal, but about survival, manipulation, and the dark side of reality TV. She agreed, on one condition: full creative control. Mendeecees, on the other hand, was drowning. His sponsors were gone, his image wrecked, and the woman he once tried to discredit was now being hailed as a truth-teller. Paparazzi caught him leaving a courthouse days later, looking defeated. When asked if he had anything to say about the leaked footage, he muttered, "She got what she wanted. I hope she's happy." But privately, he wasn't done. A week later, he met with an anonymous producer in Atlanta who had footage of his own clips from years back that could show another side to their marriage. Footage that could twist the story again. "You release this," the producer warned, "you'll blow up everything left." Mendeecees hesitated, staring at the hard drive in his hand. His pride wanted revenge, but his heart was tired. Meanwhile, Yandy began filming her new documentary, titled Unwritten, the story they couldn't script. The opening scene was quiet, her walking through Harlem, voiceover steady and powerful. They called it love, but what it really was survival. And sometimes, surviving looks like walking away. The teaser dropped online, and within 24 hours, it had over 20 million views. Fans flooded her page with messages of love, of healing, of shared stories. For the first time in years, Yandy wasn't trending for drama, she was trending for strength. But just when it seemed she had finally found peace, her lawyer called with unsettling news. "We just received notice," he said grimly. Mendeecees filed a countersuit for defamation. He's claiming the documentary damages his reputation. Yandy closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. She had expected this. "Let him," she said quietly. "The truth can defend itself." And as the call ended, she looked out her window at the city lights, her reflection staring back. This wasn't the end of her story, it was the beginning of her power. But somewhere out there, another set of recordings existed. Recordings that neither she nor the public had heard yet. And when those surfaced, the world would realize this saga wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The countersuit became headline news before the ink even dried. Mendeecees sues Yandy for defamation, claims documentary is a calculated smear campaign. The internet split down the middle again. Some people were furious, calling it an act of desperation. Others claimed Yandy had gone too far. Memes, think pieces, even TV debates erupted overnight. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a theory. But the one thing nobody could deny, this was no longer just reality TV drama. It had become a full-blown cultural moment. Inside her apartment, Yandy sat on her couch with her legal team, going over the documents line by line. Her lawyer, a calm woman named Tanya, closed the folder slowly and said, "He's not suing for money, he's suing to silence you. This is intimidation, pure and simple." Yandy nodded. "He's scared. He knows once the full documentary drops, it's over." Tanya leaned forward. "Then you need to be ready. He's hired one of the toughest legal firms in Atlanta. They're gonna dig, twist, and leak anything they can." Yandy took a deep breath. "Let them. I'm not running anymore." That same night, in a quiet corner of Atlanta, Mendeecees met with his new legal counsel. His expression was tired, his confidence fading. "I just want my name back," he muttered. His lawyer adjusted his glasses and said, "Then we control the narrative. We stop playing defense." He handed Mendeecees a folder labeled Strategic Rebuttal. Inside were interview outlines, old footage, and statements from people close to them, people ready to paint Yandy in a very different light. Meanwhile, VH1 executives were panicking. Advertisers were threatening to pull out. Producers were demanding statements. And Mona Scott was caught in the middle. She called both of them separately, hoping to calm things down. When she reached Yandy, her tone was softer than ever. "Look, baby, I know this has gone too far. Maybe it's time to settle privately." Yandy didn't even hesitate. "No, Mona, I've been private for 10 years. Look where that got me. I'm not burying the truth again." Mona sighed. "Then you better be ready for what comes next." The next morning, an anonymous email landed in multiple journalists' inboxes. The subject line read, "Exclusive unseen footage. Yandy's not who she claims to be." Attached were short clips, clearly edited, showing Yandy arguing with staff, snapping at assistants, and complaining about production. One clip even showed her saying, "I don't care what they show, as long as I look like the victim." It spread like wildfire. Twitter blew up. "So she's been acting this whole time. Nah, I knew she was fake. Team Mendeecees. Yandy watched the chaos unfold in silence. She knew those clips were manipulated. They were taken out of context from years ago. But the damage was real. Sponsors paused campaigns. Her documentary was trending for the wrong reasons. Tanya called her immediately. We need to issue a response. If we don't, they'll bury you. But Yandy didn't respond online. Instead, she picked up her phone, called Mona directly, and said, "You want ratings? You want truth? Fine, give me 1 hour. Live. No edits. No cuts. I'll tell everything." Mona hesitated. "Live. That's risky." "So was my marriage," Yandy replied. The announcement broke the internet again. Yandy Smith to go live on VH1 for 1 hour uncensored special. Promises to end the lies once and for all. The night arrived. The studio was dark, minimal, almost haunting. No music, no intro. Just Yandy sitting alone under a single light. Her hands were steady, her voice calm. "You've seen the clips, you've heard the stories. Now you'll hear mine." She spoke for nearly 20 minutes without pause. She explained how those leaked videos were from a day she'd had a panic attack on set. How the network had used her vulnerability for drama. She revealed emails between her and producers showing how scenes were scripted, edited, and distorted for ratings. Then she dropped the bombshell. "I wasn't the only one who was told to fake a storyline. Mendeecees was too. That so-called reconciliation scene everyone loved. He didn't even live in the same house that week. We filmed it months later. And the contract that said I was his manager. Also, fake just for storyline control." The room fell dead silent. The live comments were flooding hundreds per second. But Yandy wasn't done. "You want to know the real reason this story blew up? Because I stopped playing the role they wrote for me. Because I said no. And when a woman stops performing pain for profit, the people who profit from it panic." She looked straight into the camera. "This isn't about revenge. This is about truth. The industry builds you up so they can sell your breakdown. I'm done being part of that business." When the broadcast ended, social media went nuclear. Celebrities, journalists, and even former castmates weighed in. Tammy Rivera tweeted, "Finally, someone said it." Cardi reposted again, "Facts. Reality TV ain't real." VH1's servers nearly crashed from the traffic. By morning, viewership numbers broke records across the network's history. But the real shock came 2 days later. An anonymous whistleblower rumored to be a former VH1 editor sent a hard drive to a major news outlet. It contained raw, unedited footage from over 7 years of Love and Hip Hop, New York, and in that footage were dozens of moments proving Yandy's claims directors staging fights, scripting dialogue, even feeding lines through hidden earpieces. The story hit CNN, BBC, everywhere. The network scrambled to control the narrative, but the truth had already spread too far. Within a week, production on all Love and Hip Hop spin-offs was suspended pending internal review. Mendeecees went silent. His lawsuit evaporated as the evidence turned public. Mona Scott released a statement claiming she was devastated by the breach of trust. But everyone knew the empire she built was cracking. And Yandy, she stood taller than ever. Her documentary, now fully backed by Netflix, was fast-tracked for release. She titled the final episode, "Freedom Isn't Pretty." The closing scene showed her walking through Harlem again. No cameras chasing, no producers whispering in her ear, just her voice saying, "For years, I let them write my story." But the real plot twist. "I took the pen back." As the screen faded to black, her words echoed one last time soft, but unbreakable. "This isn't my downfall. This is my rebirth." The morning after Freedom Isn't Pretty premiered, the entire entertainment industry seemed to stop and stare. Every network, every gossip blog, every influencer had something to say. Critics called it a cultural reset, the reality TV expose of the decade. The moment Yandy Smith stopped being a storyline and became a movement. Overnight, she went from a controversial TV personality to the face of a national conversation about authenticity, exploitation, and the cost of fame. Yandy woke up to a flood of messages, hundreds of thousands of notifications. Oprah's team reached out, requesting an interview. Ava DuVernay tweeted, "The courage it takes to reclaim your own story after years of being scripted. That's art." Even former co-stars who had once stayed quiet were now speaking up. Kimbella posted, "Yandy said what we all were scared to say." But behind the celebration, there was still tension brewing. VH1 executives were furious. Internal emails leaked showing top brass blaming Mona Scott directly for losing control of the brand. Mendeecees, meanwhile, had gone completely off the grid. No statements, no posts, no appearances. The only sign of life came from an obscure Atlanta blog that claimed he'd been spotted meeting with a new production team. rumored to be developing a rebuttal series titled The Real Story, Uncut. Back in New York, Netflix called Yandy in for a follow-up meeting. Her documentary had broken streaming records in its first 24 hours. The numbers were staggering: 50 million views globally, trending #1 in 7 countries. The executives were thrilled. One leaned forward and said, "We want to do a limited docuseries, not just about you, but about the reality TV machine, how it chews people up and sells their trauma." Yandy listened quietly, then said, "If we do this, it's gotta be honest. No villains, no heroes, just truth." They agreed, and she signed on as executive producer. But peace never lasts long in her world. That same night, she received a message from an unknown number. It was a video file. When she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. It was Mendeecees recorded secretly, sitting in what looked like a dim basement studio. His voice was low, tired, but intense. "You think you told the truth," he said, "but you only told half. I got the rest. And when I drop it, everyone will know who really wrote the script." She froze, phone trembling in her hand. Within seconds, her lawyer, Tanya, called. "We just got word he's planning something," she said. "Someone leaked that he sold footage to an independent streaming app. It's supposed to premiere next week." Yandy clenched her jaw. Let him talk. Every lie he tells will just make my truth louder. But deep down, she knew it wouldn't be that simple. Mendeecees had always been unpredictable. If he was going public again, it meant he had something dangerous. A few days later, the trailer dropped. It was titled Behind Her Lies, The Untold Truth. The teaser was slick, professional, and loaded with dramatic narration, clips of Yandy yelling on set, and interviews with people claiming she had used everyone around her for fame. One voice said chillingly, she wasn't the victim, she was the producer. Social media exploded. Fans didn't know what to believe anymore. Some defended her fiercely. Others said they felt played. The tension reignited overnight. The entertainment world was split again. #Team Yandy versus #Team Mendeecees. Trending worldwide. The premiere of Behind Her Lies went live that Friday. Mendeecees sat in a dark room, dressed simply, looking worn but deliberate. "Everybody got their version of truth," he began. "She got hers. Now you'll hear mine." He talked about feeling trapped in a narrative he didn't control, about being edited into a villain. He said producers encouraged fights, told him what to say, pushed him to act out the role of the unfaithful man because it sold. "They made me the monster, and she played the martyr," he said bitterly. But then came the twist. He showed clips. Raw behind-the-scenes footage of Yandy laughing with producers after emotional scenes, saying things like, "This one's gonna get us ratings." The internet caught fire again. Even though most of the clips were old and lacked context, they hit hard. Within hours, every major outlet was debating, did Yandy manipulate the show too? Was Mendeecees framed or complicit? The conversation was messy, loud, and unstoppable. Yandy watched from her living room, hands folded tightly. She wasn't shocked, she knew he'd fight back. But what hurt most wasn't the footage, it was the way people turned again. She saw comments calling her fake, heartless, controlling. Juju called her immediately. "Girl, don't let this break you," she said. "You already won. You told your truth." Yandy exhaled. "Yeah," she whispered, "but truth doesn't trend forever." Still, she refused to respond right away. Instead, she spent the next 48 hours in quiet reflection, reviewing old footage, old messages, everything she'd saved from their years together, and buried deep in an old hard drive. She found something, an uncut recording from the night before Mendeecees' original confession years ago. In it, his voice was trembling as he told a friend, "Man, I can't keep lying on her like this. They told me if I act right, I'll get another season, another check. But she don't deserve this." Yandy sat frozen, tears welling. This was the proof that everything he was saying now was a cover-up. She called. "Tanya, we're releasing it," she said firmly. "Not for clout, for closure." And just like that, the final act began. She dropped the clip on her Instagram with the caption, "For every lie, there's a receipt." The internet imploded. Within an hour, the video hit 10 million views. Fans flooded the comments. "Game over. The Queen cleared him again. This is history." Mendeecees went silent once more. His team issued a half-hearted statement claiming the clip was taken out of context, but the damage was done. Days later, a news outlet confirmed that his streaming deal had been cancelled due to integrity concerns. His series was pulled before episode 2. And for the first time in months, Yandy felt a strange, quiet calm. Not victory, not revenge, just peace. She walked through her Harlem neighborhood, hoodie up, phone off, kids laughing beside her. A reporter spotted her and called out, "Yandy, any last words for your fans?" She smiled faintly and said, "Yeah, tell them love doesn't make you weak. Silence does." And as she disappeared into the crowd, the headlines shifted. The war was over, but the message lived unetched into the culture forever. Because what began as one couple's collapse had become something bigger, a reckoning with the truth, the price of fame, and the power of finally, fearlessly telling your own story. Months passed, and the noise began to fade. The hashtags slowed. The gossip shows moved on to new scandals. The world, always hungry for the next drama, started chasing fresh headlines. But for Yandy Smith, life was finally, blessedly quiet. She spent her mornings walking her kids to school, her afternoons managing her businesses, and her nights writing, a habit she'd developed since the chaos began. She filled journal after journal, not with pain this time, but with reflections, gratitude, lessons, truths, too pure for cameras. The documentary's success had turned her into something unexpected. Not a celebrity, not an influencer, but a voice. Universities invited her to speak about authenticity in media. Women's organizations reached out for partnerships. People who once dismissed her as just another reality star now quoted her lines like scripture. Peace doesn't trend. Chaos does. Still, in quiet moments, she sometimes thought of Mendeecees. Not with anger, anymore, just sadness. Their story had been so public, so raw, so relentlessly dissected that there was no way to mourn privately. But she'd learned that healing isn't about forgetting, it's about understanding. One evening, she sat on her balcony overlooking Harlem, the city lights glittering like a pulse beneath her. Her phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. For a moment, her heart skipped, but then she opened it. It was him. "I saw the speech you gave at noon. You spoke well. I'm happy you're doing better." She stared at the message, fingers hovering over the screen. Then she typed back, "Thank you. I hope you find your peace too." And that was it. No drama, no closure scene, no camera fade out. Just two people who had burned everything down finally letting the ashes rest. A week later, Netflix announced that Unwritten, the series, had been renewed for a second season, this time focusing on the broader system of reality television. With Yandy as an executive producer and narrator. The press release described it as a raw, unfiltered exploration of truth in an age of performance. In the first episode's teaser, Yandy's voice echoed over old clips of cast members from across reality franchises. "We thought we were telling our stories," she said softly, "but we were just reading scripts written to sell emotions. Now, we're writing new ones." The industry changed in small ways after that. Production companies added mental health clauses to contracts. Former cast members began speaking out. Fans demanded disclaimers on reality shows. The empire that had once fed on spectacle started to crumble under the weight of transparency. And through it all, Yandy remained steady. Not spotless, not untouchable, but real. She launched a nonprofit, the Unwritten Foundation, to support women in entertainment who had been silenced or exploited. She wrote a book titled The Scenes They Didn't Show, which became a bestseller within weeks. On the night of her book launch, the event was packed. Celebrities, journalists, even people who'd once doubted her filled the room. As she walked onto the stage, applause thundered. She smiled, humbled but confident. "I used to think strength meant holding everything together," she began. "But real strength is knowing when to let it fall apart. Because sometimes, the only way to rebuild your story is to burn the old script." The crowd rose to its feet. Flashes went off. Somewhere in the back, Mona Scott watched quietly, her face unreadable, maybe proud, maybe haunted. After the event, as Yandy stepped outside into the cool night air, a journalist called out, "Yandy, if you could go back, if you could change anything, would you?" She paused, looking up at the skyline. "No," she said softly, "because every lie, every tear, every headline led me here. And I finally like who I am when the cameras aren't rolling." The reporter nodded, lowering the mic. And as she walked away, Harlem buzzing softly around her. The world that once fed off her pain now stood as witness to her peace. For the first time in years, Yandy Smith wasn't part of a storyline. She was the author. And this time, the ending belonged to her. If you've made it this far, you already know this story wasn't just about a marriage falling apart. It was about truth, strength, and learning that peace sometimes means walking away from the chaos. Yandy's journey showed the world that love doesn't always end with forever, but it can still end with freedom. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Did Yandy make the right choice by finally exposing everything? Or should some stories stay behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about it. And if you love deep, emotional, reality-style stories like this, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, the next chapter in the love and hip-hop universe is about to shake the internet all over again. Turn on that bell, stay tuned, and remember, every story has three sides: his, hers, and the truth. Which one will you believe?